This episode is going to be a story about how I became a 12-year-old terrorist. It's funny, the podcast is called the Bipolar Yogi podcast, and these are just another couple of labels that I have received. And throughout life, I've come to understand that labels are just things that are given to us. We may acquire through our actions, through our behaviors. Some labels we want, some we don't. Some we actively try to move towards. I recently had what I would call a bipolar day. It kind of brought me down. It was a scary day. So my bipolar day, I could feel this coming. And what happens is it sort of begins with a little bit of psychosis. My mind starts to play tricks on me. It starts to tell me things that are not based on reality, at least not this reality. I mean, I have theories about where these things may come from, because it's interesting how people with bipolar tend to experience similar things in the same way that people who take DMT experience the same things. So somebody might take DMT in the US and go to a realm where they meet entities and communicate with them and come back, speak about these entities, maybe even draw them. And somebody on the other side of the world in Australia or something may have a similar experience and have a breakthrough on DMT and come back, and there have been recorded cases of that happening. So in the same way, lots of people who experience psychosis or bipolar will have similar experiences. So maybe these experiences, these things that the mind starts to see, are different realms, different places. So my mind starts telling me things, and it becomes quite scary at times. There's a lot of low vibration, lots of what I deem hell type realms, demons, demonic kind of things. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying that I think that I'm seeing demons or anything. It's very difficult to put these things into words and to grasp and make other people understand, even on the intellectual level, if they haven't experienced these things themselves. So the mind creates all of these stories about different things, why I am in places, why things are happening, and lots of the time this happens on my day-to-day life, but it's usually quite positive. And so when it starts to go negative, when it becomes demonic, that's when I know something is coming, some kind of change, mentally, physically. Something in my life is going to change. And the key, like I've said before, is to not get lost in these stories that the mind creates, because the mind can create so many different stories and just get lost in them. So I started experiencing this last week, and then it kind of gradually increased until I had this day, which, like I say, I call it a bipolar day. And what this is the mind kind of becomes erratic, crazy, It's sort of like everything brings stress, my reality begins to crumble, and there's a lot of emotion comes up as well. Feels like my compass spins in all directions. I don't know which way to go or what to do. And I think knowing myself the way that I do, there's always causes for this. I now see bipolar as my teacher, one of my teachers, and one of my guides. It's sort of like a spiritual guide as to, when the compass starts spinning around frantically and I can't see which way to go, I don't know which way to go. It's a big reminder to stop and slow down and become present and aware. So on this day when it happened, I was feeling like crying a lot, and the practices that I do at the moment, the yoga, the asanas, a lot of it is opening up hips, opening up stuck, tight muscles, energy that's sort of trapped and locked in the body. All of these practices are opening these up, so it's expected that some emotion will come up. And I practiced that morning, and then I took the rest of the day off, and I went for a meditation. I just took myself, and I was just walking, and I ended up taking myself to a waterfall and sitting and meditating in nature. And it was difficult to meditate because my mind was racing, but I did my best. At the end of the meditation, I basically said, right, I just need to go and get some nice cake, and well, actually it's called Bagsu cake, this cake, in the place that I'm staying in Dharamshala in northern India. And this guy sells it, and he reckons he invented it, but I'm pretty sure it's just millionaire shortbread. But it is, I would have to say, the best millionaire shortbread I've ever had in my life. So that was the plan at the end of this meditation, which is not very wholesome, but that just sort of goes to show like where my head was at, and I felt like that need for comfort food, and I just wanted to go and be in my room on my own, lay under the covers and eat this sugary food. So I left this waterfall with that intention. On the way I bumped into a friend, and it was a friend that I wanted to see that day anyway. I sat with him, I was on this path next to a river, next to the waterfall, and we sat down and we chatted a little bit, and he said, just wait with me, we'll go back to he owns a tattoo studio. So he was like, we'll go back to the studio and we'll work on your tattoo design. And I was like, okay, fine. This is what I'm doing now. I've just bumped into him. Obviously not letting off really like how I'm feeling or anything, but then the next thing that happened was kind of a little bit of a small blessing from the universe, I think. And a guy walked past, and this guy looked a little bit stoned or high or something, and he was carrying a load of bottles, like Coca-Cola bottles, and they were filled with grease or something. So then my friend calls him over, and he says, can you give me a massage? Do you know what's funny? I'm really trying. I listened to the last podcast back, and I noticed that I was saying like a lot. The word like, when you're like, oh, like this, like that. And I was like, whoa, why am I doing that? Why is my vocabulary so poor? But I guess that's just how I tell stories sometimes. And I'm umming, and I wanted to apologise for that for a start, and also I wanted to stop doing it. So now I'm trying to be really conscious about the words that I'm using and to not use it. But it's so funny how you just use filler words. I don't really know. I guess my vocabulary is not great. I'm more of a numbers person than a words person. So anyway, this guy, my friend, gets a head massage, and I'm like, oh, cool. And he's like, do you want one? And I said, yeah. And this guy starts giving me a massage, and I start to feel really good. I'm relaxing into it, and maybe this was what I needed. And then he ended up actually giving me a full body massage just there on the side of the road, which was really nice and definitely what I needed. And that kind of made me feel relaxed. I had a bit of a smile on my face, sort of with a thank you, with a recognition that was kind of a little divine gift. And then I went back to the tattoo studio with my friend, and then things went south again as he was showing me tattoo ideas, and it just wasn't lining up. I just wasn't seeing what I wanted to see. And I started getting really stressed again and feeling all emotional. And I left the shop again wanting to cry and feeling really frustrated. Then I got home and I had a look at the tattoo design, and he had messaged me saying like, come in tomorrow and I'll do some drawings on your back, and maybe that will help you to see it, because we were just looking at an iPad. So I went in the following day, and I felt so much better that day. It was a Saturday. I'd completed my yoga teacher training. I basically graduated that day. I then went into the studio, and he started drawing on me, and things just started to line up, and I was seeing his ideas, and I was seeing that he was seeing what I wanted him to see. And so everything just sort of started to line up, and I ended up going ahead and getting the tattoo that evening, and things just, I don't know, it was so weird how I just had this like day of feeling all of this stuff come up, and instead of, I don't know, reacting to it and getting lost in it, and I mean, granted, I wanted to go and get some sugary snacks and just lay in bed, but I didn't do that in the end. That didn't actually happen, and it was like I was guided away from that, which was again another lesson to say like, that's not the direction that you need to go in when these things happen. If you're feeling like you're having a bipolar day, then don't go and make it worse. I know for sure how much diet and the gut brain axis is huge, and how much influence it has what I put in my stomach onto how it makes me feel throughout the day. And so going and doing something like that, like going and filling myself up with sugar and crap and then just laying in bed, is not the right thing to do, and I know that. So I'm glad I didn't do that. And the following day I was just, everything just started lining up, and it was as if I needed to allow all of that emotion to come up. Like I say, with all the practices that I'm doing, it's allowing these things to come up and just letting go of them. My teacher, I was learning about the philosophy of yoga, and my teacher was talking about how the mind is often going through old, like when the mind brings up the past, for example, and it's kind of like, if you think about the process of meditation, the purpose of yoga is to clear the mind, to free the mind from all fluctuations. And so if you think about your mind like a computer or like a web browser, and over your lifetime you're kind of opening up tabs, you're opening up these things, and quite often you're not closing them down, you're not allowing things to just close down. So that's where in meditation you basically, like, things will come up from the past or whatever it is. Maybe it's trauma, or maybe it's just like something, a memory, and it's allowing it to come up and then just watching it as the tab kind of closes itself down. Just allowing the memory to play out as it needs to kind of complete its cycle, so that, you know, the mind can heal itself at the end of the day, but you've just got to allow it to, you've just got to give it the circumstances, the right environment to heal. So allowing these things to come up, these tabs, these old patterns of behavior that need to just play out, and just watching them as they come up and then just letting them fall away. And for me, that just happened on a really big scale throughout like a whole day, and I just knew that I needed to watch it, let it go, and let it fall away. And really since then I've had like really amazing experiences. So yeah, that was like a craziness of the start of my week, the last week. And another key thing actually that I used, another tool, was cold water therapy. Coming back to that, knowing how much it benefits my whole state of being for the rest of the day, that was actually another really profound thing. It really helps to regulate my nervous system, because these times when my mind is racing like that, my whole nervous system is out of balance, it's out of sync. And so doing something like cold water therapy or meditation or asanas, these things all help to regulate the nervous system. I don't know if it's because I have a diagnosis of a severe mental illness that I feel these things on such a huge level, or whether that's because I've trained myself in a way that I'm super receptive to how my body feels. Either way, I know what works. So yeah, getting back to my life story, diving back into my younger years, I was labelled a terrorist at the age of 12. So I went into secondary school, aged 11, and like I said last week, my dad wasn't around. He was a heroin addict. That was as much as I knew. My stepdad was a bit of a dick to me. I didn't really like him. I didn't get on with him. He probably wasn't even a massive dick to me at that point. I was more of a dick to him, but still, we didn't get on. He was quite physical a lot of the time. And my mum was just an angel. I also lived with my older sister. She's 2 years older. And my younger brother, 9 years younger. So we were a family of, 5 at that time, under one roof in a 3-bedroom house. A 3-bedroom council house in a small village. And school was alright. I was pretty good at school. I was good at maths, I was good at exams, and I got on with the teachers, some of them. But I also had this side of me that was just a little shit, that just didn't really like listening to authority, didn't really like how school went, being told what to do and when to do it, all of this stuff. So I like to fuck about a bit. And that was apparent within the first maybe month or so, being in year 7, so the first year of secondary school. And I set off the fire alarm with a deodorant can. I thought that was pretty funny. And we were in the changing rooms, and I just turned to somebody and was like, "Oh, watch this." Sprayed a deodorant can at the fire alarm, and it was like, there was like a 5-second pause and nothing happened. And I was like, oh, maybe it's not going to go off there. Maybe that's not how they work. And then literally just boom, fire alarm goes off. Some little kid, some dorky, like nerdy kid, he runs off and tells the tells the teachers, oh, it was him that did it. And I was like, oh, brilliant. So the whole school was lined up on the field, and the teachers came and got me, and that was the first time I think I really got into trouble at school, at secondary school. I'd got into like little bits of trouble, but that was I think I got excluded for that. Every time I got excluded, my mum would always tell them, I'm not coming home. She says, he's not coming home. That's not a punishment. He's going to enjoy being at home. So he should make me stay at school. And the teachers allowed that. So yeah, that didn't really stop me getting into trouble. But then, in fact, year 7, and this was, I remember, one of my earliest encounters with meditation actually was year 7. And we had this circle time, and the teacher, I think the question was like, what do you do to calm yourself down or something? And my response was meditation. I said, I meditate to help keep me calm, and when I get angry and stuff. But that was bollocks. I don't know why I said that, but I was an 11-year-old kid who knew something about meditation and the effects that it could have on creating calmness and stillness in the mind. But I hadn't practiced at that time, so that was one of my earliest encounters or memories of meditation. And I went on to, in my teenage years, explore all types of different meditation techniques, guided meditations. I was very into lucid dreaming, self-hypnosis, all of these kind of things. I was very looking for something else. I was seeking, basically. I didn't know it, but that was what I was doing. And I would do that quite quietly as well. I remember reading up about Buddhism when I was like 14 or 15 years old, quite interested in getting into meditation and this kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess I've been on this journey of seeking, truth seeking peace, clarity, knowledge, since I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. I was a very hard worker at a young age. I used to work for my mum. That was my first job, was cleaning around the house. And that was even pre-secondary school. And I remember my mum used to pay me 20 pence, I think it was, for a job. Each job I would do. So she would write a list of jobs that I could do around the house. Washing up, cleaning, hoovering, cutting the grass, I don't know, whatever it was, she would write it down. And each job I did, I earned 20 pence. And so I would just do as many jobs as I could. It'd be like the weekend, and I'm just like, give me another job, give me another job, give me another job. And that was how I made my pocket money, basically. And the first thing that I saved up for was a mobile phone. I must have been about 10 or 11, maybe 10, yeah. I think I was still in primary school at that point. And I saved up for a mobile phone, because my mum was very against technology, very against me and my older sister having technology and things. So I had to buy my own mobile phone, and I saved it up. It cost me £30 from Argos, and it was just a little, I don't know what the make was or anything. But it was a little crappy phone, and I could call and text people, and that was great. And then when I was 12 years old, I managed to get myself a paper round, which was actually illegal at the time. You have to be 13 to get a paper round in the UK, or to get your first job actually. I don't know if it's still the same, probably is. And yeah, I lied about my age to the guy at the paper shop. He needed somebody to cover for somebody else, and I got the job. Started delivering papers, and yeah, like I said, I was a hard worker. I'd do that before school, sometimes even doing 2 or 3 rounds before school, early in the morning on my push bike around the local village. And that sort of set the tone for my work ethic in my early years. I had a really good work ethic, and I put that down to my mum and how she would make me do jobs around the house for 20p a go. So yeah, how did the terrorism come about? Well, basically I was a part of the youth centre, and I was on the youth committee. I used to attend the youth centre loads. It was great. I don't know, maybe from the age of 11, I was going to the youth centre, and it was mainly because my older sister went. I would do whatever my older sister was doing, and so I was always hanging around with the older kids as well. I was one of the youngest kids that would go there, and I was a part of the youth committee, and I was actually the chair at age 12, so I would run the committee meetings, and it was great. It was what I really enjoyed doing. I really enjoy taking on like a leadership role. So I was leading these committee meetings at the age of 12, and this was back in 2010. And if you are anyway politically inclined and understand the politics of the UK, you might recall that in 2010 the right-wing government took over, and David Cameron was the Prime Minister at the time. Now, a big part of the Tory government, it was actually a Tory Lib Dem, I think it was a coalition government back in 2010, but they decided that they were going to bring in cuts. The country was in debt, they needed to make cuts to public services. So they decided they were going to cut youth services and completely strip back the whole of the youth service in the UK. Now, the youth service, the youth club that I went to, got great funding from the government, and it created so many opportunities for me at that age. Coming from a poor working class family, like lower working class, living in a council house, I wasn't able to go on school trips. My mum couldn't afford to send me on all of the school trips. I went on a few, but there were a lot that I missed out on, and so missing out on those opportunities with my peers, with the kids that were my age, was quite sad. But you know, I didn't really let it get to me too much. There's only opportunities come and go, and yeah, it was kind of made up by the youth centre. I was able to have lots of opportunities. We did lots of things, went on residentials, rock climbing, paintballing, countless experiences that I had from the youth centre. And like I said, I was a younger kid, so I was always from a young age hanging around with older kids, because a lot of the kids that go to a youth club are sort of mid-teens. And yeah, we would have these youth committee meetings every month, you know, deciding what we were going to do that month, how we were going to spend the funding, what events we were going to put on, all of these kind of things. And one month, our youth workers came to us and they broke the news about the funding, and they basically said that the government is going to cut funding to youth services, and it means that the likeliness is that they will lose their jobs and the youth centre will close down. And we were like, oh no, that's kind of shit, because we all love the youth centre. And so it was decided, we all came together, we decided we would protest this. And so we created a Facebook group with the intention of organising a protest outside our local constituency office. So at the time, the Prime Minister, like I say, was David Cameron, but he also happened to be our local MP. So we organised a protest outside of his constituency and created a Facebook group. The Facebook group had a number of followers in the over 500. I think it got up to about 1,000, especially after everything kicked off. And so we organised this protest, and now I remember one day, I think I got home from school, I was walking home from school and I bumped into the youth worker, and he said to me, oh, the school has been contacted by MI5, the anti-terrorist police, and they are looking for your details. They've been asking the school for your details in relation to this protest. And I was like, oh right, mental. MI5 are after me. Isn't that pretty cool? I remember going home and like seeing, I saw a car parked that's on my road, and I thought, oh, maybe that's the government spying on me. I don't know. And so yeah, I thought this was really cool at the time. And I remember telling one of my friends at school, one of my really close friends, he's still one of my best mates, I said to him, oh yeah, the anti-terrorist police are looking for me, like MI5 are after me. And then like the following day at school, I was in my classroom, and one of the members of staff came to get me, and they were like, you know, can you come with us? We need to talk to you. And I was like, I turned to my mate and I was like, it's MI5, they've come for me. Like completely taking the piss. Anyway, I got to reception, and there's standing there in reception is a police officer, and he wants to talk to me about the protests. So he took me into a room with my head of year, and we sat and we chatted, and he basically threatened me. I was only 12 years old, and I was being threatened by this police officer about a protest that I'd organised, because it was all related to my Facebook account. I'd set up the page, everything. And yeah, there were hundreds of people who had said that they were attending the protest. So he said, I'm going to be responsible. If anybody's out of line, it's all on me. I could be arrested. People will be arrested. He specifically said, if David Cameron is there, then his armed guards will be there. So if anybody's out of line, then, you know, and he kind of inferred that he was going to shoot people. I was sat there like, what the fuck, this is mental. After that, I went home, told my mum, and there was a big outroar because the police had interviewed me as an under 18 without my parent being present, without my mum's consent. And so we then went to the newspapers, and there was massive backlash. There was loads of stories. We got loads of press coverage, and it blew up a little bit. I think after that we had like over 1,000 followers on the Facebook account, and back then Facebook was only a couple of years old, so that was like quite a big deal. And I think if it happened today, it would have been way bigger. But it's funny because, like I say, I got the label of 12-year-old terrorist, and so it literally says, I remember Googling my name, and on like the third page of Google, it just had my name, and it said noted terrorist, and I just thought that was hilarious. And yeah, there's still, you can find it on the internet, but it's got my name, and it just says 12-year-old terrorist, and it's somebody's blog. They wrote a blog about me, and it's got the whole story there, which is really funny. A schoolboy trying to save his youth club was hauled from class after his plan to protest outside David Cameron's constituent office was spotted by anti-terror police. So yeah, we were on Daybreak, on the news. I got my 15 minutes of fame. I thought that was really, really cool as a 12-year-old kid. And from that, we went ahead with the protest. Maybe we had a couple hundred people. Because my mum, because the police officer scared the shit out of me, my mum told me to cancel it. She was also scared. She was like, I don't want you getting arrested. I was like, oh, okay. So I sent out a message to everyone and said, look, it's cancelled. And then maybe 2 days later, I was like, do you know what? We're just going to do it. Fuck what the police are saying. We have the right to protest. I'm only 12. What are they going to do?
So I sent a message to everyone, so it's back on, and I think we just got less people because of that, which was quite sad, quite frustrating, but it is what it is. So we went ahead with the protest, and there was so many. I remember there was so many police officers like stood around, like what a waste of their time. So we went ahead with the protest. It was great. We were shouting around outside his constituency, and it was great fun. We had placards, and like I say, we were all over the newspapers. It was really cool. I remember one morning I went into the. Obviously, I was doing a paper round at the time. I went in to pick up my papers, and on the front on the front page of the local newspaper, it said my name, 12-year-old rioting or whatever, and the guy Rashid at the paper shop looked at me, and he was like you. I was like, oh yeah, and he was like, oh okay, and so at that point he knew that I was only 12 years old, and I thought, oh well, at least he knows now. But I guess because I was a good guy and I was protesting for youth services, he let me still have the job. It was only like 3 or 4 months until my 13th birthday. So yeah, that was how I became known as a terrorist at 12 years old. And from that, I then went on to protests. I got invited to lots of protests across the country. There were lots of demonstrations happening. I spoke in front of thousands of people, and it was really, really cool. Really great experience. It really brought out a confident kind of, as I said, leader style of person. Like my leadership characteristics. Really enjoyed speaking in front of people. People told me I was good at it, so that encouraged me as well. And it was just quite an eventful time of my life, which was really interesting. So yeah, that's how I became the 12-year-old terrorist. And I think I'll leave it there. That's the next chapter of my life awaits. So if you've got this far, thanks again for listening. It's really interesting that I find it difficult to get in the creative mode to talk about these things. I have to I don't know if it's the the bipolar, the neurodivergence, but once I get in this state, I'm kind of very, it's a nice creative flowy state to be in, just talking about my life. But it's funny that I put this off. I find it difficult. I even try when I'm not in the right state, because I think, I need to record this, I need to get this out, because I've decided I'm doing it now, and that's it. I've just got to do it. I've got to keep going every episode. It doesn't matter if nobody's listening, doesn't matter, nothing matters really. I've committed to this, and so I've got to commit to the creative flow and keep it going. So thank you if you did listen. I hope to see you again next week. Give this a share if you've enjoyed it. Tell your friends, tell your mum, tell your dad. Lots of love, and see you all soon. Peace.